Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Benold, and I'm here today to lead us through a journey to learn more about that challenge and about the affiliate consortia that are sponsoring it. So today you're going to learn all about the ins and outs of how to apply, how to win, more about prizes and things like that. And you're going to gain the familiarity with the 4 sponsoring consortia that I mentioned are here with us today. They represent over 10 billion in health tech contracting authority, and they'll serve on the judging panel for finalist pitches. So we're excited to hear what they have to say and what they're looking for, as well as what it looks like to become a member in their consortium and how you could do that as well through this process. So we're eager to hear your questions, and we will respond to them in the latter part of the call. So if you could, please enter them in the questions section on your webinar control panel. And also, if you could, please remain on mute throughout the call if you're not, if you're not a presenter, to ensure that everyone on the call can hear. So after all of that, we're ready to kick things off, and I'd like to start out with Jennifer Rocha. She is our Vice President of Strategic Partnerships in the Tech Connect division at Advanced Technology International, ATI. And today she's going to speak with us about the operational details surrounding the challenge. So Jen, I will hand it off to you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Laura. And thank you everyone for joining us for this MIC2 informational webinar. So I get the fun job of telling you all about the pitch program, how to apply, and the very generous $200,000 prize pool that we'll be offering come September. So to step back, we are running our first Medical Innovation Challenge, which we're calling Medical Innovation Challenge 1, which will be in just a few weeks at the Gaylord National Harbor over in Maryland. So our first challenge features a $50,000 prize pool. And so we wound up with 31 finalists, which we are very excited about. And this is to give you a sense about what to expect. As you can see, these are the confirmed review panelists and judges that we will have on the 13th of June. And as you can see, it's a mix of government, military, and private industry. So it's a very dynamic format. We like to call it our version of Shark Tank, where we have our review panelists and our finalists give brief technology pitches to this review panel, as well as our audience at the co-located events. Each presenter gets 5 minutes to pitch, and then we pivot to an on-site review panel for 3 minutes of aggregate feedback to each finalist. So it's a really fantastic program. We run it in a one-day program, and at the end of the day, we will select 5 winners who each receive $10,000. And this has been a phenomenal, in terms of response that we've had to the first challenge. And so we're very excited about it. And a big thank you, of course, to our consortia that are sponsoring this, as well as all the review panelists that are coming out in a few weeks to MIC1. So hopefully for those folks that have not yet submitted, this gives you a sense about what to expect for the Medical Innovation Challenge 2, which will be co-located at our Defense Tech Connect conference. So as Laura mentioned earlier in her opening remarks, these combined consortia are quite powerful. They represent over 20 billion in health technology contracting authority, which is really fantastic. And for anyone that has applied for government or military programs or funding, all these consortia are a wonderful ally and friend to have as you navigate the various proposals and calls for papers and the monies that are available to entrepreneurs and universities. These are really great partners to have. So certainly we encourage all of you to take a look at these various consortia, become a member of one or more of them, and really leverage these expertise and resources that the consortia have. And after my presentation, you will hear from our partners within the MIC Challenge, and they can tell you certainly much more about their consortia and the benefits that they offer and why they're so vital to the medical community, as well as the DoD and national security. So this Medical Innovation Challenge is the second in a series of our sponsored accelerated events. And what's really fantastic is we're able to bring together the power of the ATI consortia with our Tech Connect model of really bringing the best emerging technologies to the marketplace and to our partners, whether they be private industry, government, or military. So in terms of the 200K distribution, we are allotting $175K for our startup pitch competition. And what's really cool about September is we're adding a $25K prize pool strictly for student pitches. So it's a really fantastic opportunity for our, very young entrepreneurs at the university stage to come join us and compete for a share of this prize pool. So how this works, on our website, and I suspect Laura will also send out these details after the webinar, you submit your technology that best aligns with our consortia target areas. Certainly there are various factors that come into play in terms of who's decided, but as a term I'm sure all of you have heard before, dual use solutions for both civilian and DoD national security use are ideal for this type of challenge. So pretty much the submission process is complimentary. You go online, you submit a very simple one-page form, and after our committee takes a look and reviews them, the top ranked submissions will pitch in person at our one-day event. And I apologize, I don't have the specific date yet, so please block off the 26th through 28th of September. This will be a one-day pitch program ideally. And essentially in that one-day challenge, you will compete for the prize package, the 200K plus the 175K, my apologies, plus the 25K for the student program, and you'll receive feedback from the on-site review panel, and that's kind of the preview I gave you on a prior slide for our June event coming up. Another fantastic thing about these challenges is that all submissions are in a qualifying process for membership, and this is for new members only. So this could be a potential complimentary membership or a reduced rate membership. And you also have the fantastic opportunity to engage with all the sponsoring consortia on site at the event. And as I mentioned in that prior slide, the MIC2 challenge will be co-located with our Fall Defense Tech Connect event. And as you can see from the logos, we have the Fall SBIR STTR conference. These are all the federal agencies that distribute annually over $4 billion in non-diluted funding to US-based startups. We are also co-located with Smart Cities, Resilience Week, which is focused on energy and security for the federal government. We also have an Op Energy and Logistics Summit, and certainly medical challenges certainly overlap into most of these programming areas. So you're not only getting the benefit of all the consortia and competing for a prize, but you also get this fantastic exposure to all our event attendees who will be attending the pitches, certainly in addition to our review panelists. So in terms of important dates and deadlines, the submission deadline is Thursday, June 30th. So certainly between now and then, certainly do your research, do your homework, check out the consortia, check out our Medical Innovation Challenge pages, familiarize yourself with the various areas that are of top priority to our consortia partners, and submit your innovations. There is no limit to the number of submissions. We certainly ask you submit the ones that you feel have the highest likelihood of being accepted. We will go into our review period and we will notify all the folks that are accepted for the finalist program no later than the week of July 25th. Now, if you are not accepted to be a finalist, we Tech Connect will offer you an opportunity to pitch within our Defense Innovation Program at a reduced rate, but those details will be in the email sent to you in July. From that date that you are accepted, we give you 2 weeks to confirm to come join us in DC for the end of September. And as I noted before, the in-person medical challenge will take place one of those days at the Marriott Gaylord. So if you are accepted as a finalist, you receive a complimentary registration. It's one registration per finalist company. And the Marriott Gaylord has discounted room rates, and certainly with that conference pass, you have access not only to the Medical Innovation Challenge, but all the co-located activities happening in our conference. And that includes keynotes, breakout sessions, and our exhibit hall. So it's a really wonderful ecosystem that you will be able to access, whether you are a finalist or whether we invite you to pitch in our other Defense Innovation Challenge programs. And so that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That's my contact information. And that also includes a Medical Innovation Challenge 2 link, and certainly contact me with any questions, and we hope to see your submission come through our doors. So Laura, back to you.
Great, thank you so much, Jen. Really appreciate that. We're going to pass the mic over to Mike. But don't forget, if you have any questions, please enter them in the questions tab now, and we'll get to as many of those at the end of the webinar as we can. And if there are any we are not able to get to, we'll do that with you. We'll send a note to you and make sure we contact you to follow up. So don't worry if you have a question, it will get answered. So as I mentioned, next we're going to hear from Mike Stebbins, who is the Vice President of the Manufacturing and Threat Countermeasures Division at Advanced Technology International. And he is also the Executive Director of two consortia, Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Consortium and the Medical CBRN Defense Consortium. So Mike, we'll hand it to you.
Hey, thanks, Laura. Are you seeing the proper
Yes.
screen? Okay, excellent. Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining in, and hope you find this information informative. As Laura indicated, I serve as executive director for both of these consortia that I'm going to talk about. They really are part of the same government organization, the Joint Program Executive Office for Chemical, Biological, Radiological, and Nuclear Defense within the DoD. And in a nutshell, they differ in one real critical way. Everything that these two consortia look at is effectively countering weapons of mass destruction. The medical one, the MCDC, really highlights anything from a human medical standpoint. So exposure, treating, diagnosing, and preventing exposure to our soldiers of chemical and biological weapons. And then the other consortia, CWMD, is really everything else. So personal protective equipment, sensors, diagnostic detection devices, standalone, et cetera, stuff like that. So really you've got medical and then non-medical. And I'll go into a little bit of detail on each of the slides, or each of the consortium. So they are both very well-established consortia. MCDC started up back in 2016, and CWMD just about a year and a half later, in the fall of 2017. They have a large base of industry and academia that are part of the member base. I think a little over 300 members for MCDC and almost 400 members for CWMD. And surprisingly, there's not a tremendous crossover in terms of members. You might think that there are, but both of them look into developing prototypes. So this isn't pure basic R&D, but it is advanced R&D, prototype development out towards high manufacturing levels and technology readiness levels, primarily for the Department of Defense, but we've played with other federal customers, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Both consortia are comprised of small businesses and large businesses, academia and nonprofits, and what we call traditional defense contractors and non-traditional defense contractors, those entities that really haven't ever done business with the government, whether on their own, they just choose not to, or they just don't know about opportunities where their technologies and their innovations might be well received by the government. So before we get into each of the individual consortia and their efforts, let's talk about the construct under which they operate and how money flows from government to participants of these consortia. And I have one graphic here because it really codifies the one process that's utilized by both. And so we operate under what is called an other transaction agreement. It's different than typical contracting mechanisms that the government uses. Most of those are use the FAR, or the Federal Acquisition Regulation. The reason we operate under another transaction is the government many years ago realized that the terms and conditions associated with FAR contracting, specifically the financial oversight requirements with companies, was too onerous for some of the smallest companies, yet the government was still interested in the innovation that resides with those companies. So they basically started with a contract written on a piece of paper, and while it has morphed to be a little more complex than that, it does have less burdensome requirements so that companies that are small and innovative will still find favor in doing business with the government. The government isn't interested in owning your technology. They're not interested in commercializing your technology. They just want access to it so that they can meet the needs of, in this case, protecting the warfighter. So in a nutshell, you see on the left side of the graphic, government and industry are really interested in working together. Government can identify the requirements that they have. Industry, through industry days, can listen to those requirements, provide some feedback, inform the government of what the state of the art and the state of their capabilities are. And that can go back to the government, who then refines their ask. That ask comes out in the shape of a solicitation. We call them RPPs, but they're just solicitations. That goes through a consortium management firm, which in this case happens to be ATI. We release those solicitations out to industry, and in this case, they only go out to members of either the MCDC or the CWMD. Industry then collaborates to the degree they wish to. Okay, they can form teams within the consortium, outside of the consortium. The only requirement is to respond to a solicitation, you have to be a member of the consortium. Your team members don't have that same requirement. Industry can also talk back, feedback, interact with the government as they are preparing their submissions, their proposals to be submitted. So that open communication is very different than typical government industry interaction. So up until the moment a proposal has to be submitted, industry can go back to government and talk about their solution. Once proposals are submitted, they come back to us, the consortium management firm. We do a very high level compliance screening to make sure what we asked for was indeed submitted. And then all that information goes to the government, who does the entirety of source selection. Once source selection is done, they notify us, the consortium management firm, and then we notify the selectees, and then the process really goes fairly quickly from there. The government and the selectee jointly negotiate a statement of work. Okay, so what they're asking for in the original solicitation is a statement of objectives, and they're asking for industry to come up with a solution. And then once you're selected, you work collaboratively with the government to develop that statement of work, and then you price out that statement of work, what it costs to do that job, and then the award happens, and you go on and complete the work. So let's move forward and talk for just a couple slides about the Medical CBRN Defense Consortium. We might be the only consortium that has an acronym within an acronym, but I haven't really checked across all of the consortia. But the members of the MCDC are really charged with prototyping new technologies for development of medical countermeasures. So every entity that's a member of the MCDC has some level of qualifications within medical countermeasure development. They range from large pharma to small mom and pops, to emerging technologies that are coming out of universities, to larger research universities and nonprofits. You know, and whether it's in the diagnosis, the treatment, the detection, FDA licensure, et cetera, they all have qualifications in developing medical countermeasures. And in this case, they are all countering exposure to chemical or biological threats. I mentioned the customer, the JPEO CBR&D is the primary customer. However, the Defense Threat Reduction Agency is also a very, very heavy user, close to 50-50 with the JPEO. And in fact, they're almost a sister organization in a sense. They are doing everything counter WMD as well, but they're a little bit earlier in the technology development stage, and oftentimes when a technology needs to go to advanced manufacturing and development, they may kick it over to the JPEO. But they work hand in glove with each other to make sure that the DoD is meeting their counter WMD threats. And just recently, we partnered with Health and Human Services and BARDA in particular to handle some of the COVID activities that were happening over the last couple of years, to include a handful of Operation Warp Speed. programs. So really, in a nutshell, I've mentioned this a few times: prevention, treatment, diagnosis. That's really what we're all about, prevention. And these are not exhaustive lists, but we're talking vaccine platform, platforms that could be used across a range of threat targets. Treatment, those can include therapeutics, traditional therapeutics, or maybe drug delivery devices. Imagine like an EpiPen that has 1, 2, maybe even 4 components that a soldier needs to have on their body so that either they or a buddy can administer it in the field. And then, of course, diagnosis. Are we identifying the agents, and then how can we identify whether a soldier has actually been exposed before we can go down a treatment path? So as I mentioned, we have over 300 members. Since inception in the spring of 2016, we've awarded 81 projects. Across those 81 projects, they range in, or they have a collective value of just shy of $9 billion. 7.9 billion has been awarded in actual funding across those projects. Those numbers are a little bit skewed because we did, we are actively operating 5 Operation Warp Speed projects, including the Pfizer vaccine, which is sunsetted for us, Novavax, Sanofi, Regeneron, who was developing a therapeutic, and Janssen, which we all know about that vaccine as well. So that effort's almost concluded. All of that has happened through the MCDC. The OWS work gets a lot of press, but all the other work done by our members is quite phenomenal, and we're always looking to provide additional innovation and capabilities back to the DoD, so they find this consortium a ready-made group of entities to be able to get their solicitations and needs met. Okay, so moving on to CWMD, or the counter WMD effort. Again, it's prototyping new technologies. We're a little bit further down the technology development range relative to basic research. Everything associated with understanding and enhancing threats that are weapons of mass destruction related, and vulnerabilities as well. Again, the JPEO is our primary government customer, but the Defense Threat Reduction Agency is a heavy user of this effort as well. We've partnered with the Department of Homeland Security and their counter WMD office, as well as the Program Executive Office for Assembled Chemical Weapons Alternatives, which is just working through demilitarization of the last 10% of the chemical stockpile for the U.S. So the technical focus areas, as you can imagine, these are extremely broad. They range from consequence management and hazard mitigation, arms control technologies, R&D, experimentation, emerging technologies, CBRN, and threats and vulnerabilities as well. We're almost at 400 members. 167 projects have been awarded. Their combined value is just north of $1 billion, and to date, almost $900 million in actual funding has been awarded across those projects. So real quickly, how to join. The process is pretty easy. We are not looking to exclude anybody. This isn't a country club. We just simply want entities that have expertise either in development of medical countermeasures or in prototyping counter WMD technologies. And as I mentioned, we do have a handful of members that are in both consortia. These are the websites. If you go there, you can easily navigate towards a membership application. They're done online. You can start them and stop them, and they really just require simple business information. One caveat, and it's quite important, is a particular form and certification is necessary. It's called a DD 2345, and basically it is a form that allows contractors access to controlled, unclassified information. While we have the capability to work on classified work, we rarely do. But as you can imagine, being involved in counter WMD and medical technologies for the warfighter, there is sensitivity to a lot of the information that gets pushed out. And so The government actually has this requirement for a DD 2345. We can help you navigate the steps to process that, but that is a requirement for membership. And then at the present, membership is limited to U.S. entities because those are the only entities that can get the DD 2345. But if you are a foreign owned entity and you have a U.S. based affiliate, that entity can also join. And then one more caveat, if you are a foreign entity, you can partner with a current member and still have the ability to bring your technology to bear on a project. So my last slide here is just some general contact information. You're welcome to reach out to me personally. I'm happy to walk you through, give you any level of information that we didn't provide in this brief. And I think that's it, and I'll turn it back over to Laura.
Great, thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate that overview. Phil, as I pass this to you, I'm going to introduce you. So next up to share about our Senior Healthcare Innovation Consortium is Phil Giese. He is the founder and chairman of the consortium, and he also wears a lot of other hats. He's also the founder and chairman of Edgewood Healthcare. He's the co-founder and president of Aspire Clinical Intelligence, and he's the co-founder of Edgewood Real Estate Investment. So he's a busy guy, and we are happy to have him here. And I don't know that I see your presentation yet, though, Phil.
All right.
Might be pause sharing. I'm not sure. There you go. It's up now. I'll let you take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Laura. Thanks again. My name is Phil Giese. As Laura said, I own a company called Edgewood Healthcare. I've been in healthcare for about 40 years, actually. I started with the hospital systems back in the 80s. I was the CFO and CEO of a hospital system. I started my own company in 1992. I still operate that today. And we have 65 assisted living facilities across the upper Midwest, encompassing about 4,000 residents. But I'm also a vertically integrated company in home-based healthcare. So we own physician practices. We have physicians and nurse practitioners that practice within my buildings. We have home health hospice companies across the upper Midwest, and we service about 5,000 residents every single day. So we started SHEIC, Senior Healthcare Innovation Consortium, less than 6 months ago. So I want to talk a little bit about why we started SHEIC and what SHEIC is. So SHEIC is an education and scientific research consortium dedicated to leveraging technology and data to positively impact senior healthcare treatment and delivery models, and specifically to reduce healthcare costs. So our mission is to improve senior population health, quality, safety, and illness prevention. And when it comes down to it, we want to keep seniors out of hospitals, out of the ERs, and out of skilled nursing facilities. The founding members, again, we're only 6 months old. We have less than 50 members today. But we plan to grow the membership as much as possible, hopefully 300 members within the next couple of years. Our founding members are mostly from North Dakota, where I'm based out of. Edgewood Healthcare, of course, the Center for Innovation, which is an incubator located at the University of North Dakota. The University of North Dakota College of Engineering and Mines is a founder. And the BERC is a biometric engineering department of both the University of North Dakota and the North Dakota State University. We also have Safety Spec, which is involved in detecting contaminants and documenting inspection and sanitization in facilities in all different types of environments. And Wound Exam Corporation is involved in remote wound analysis and management. Legacy Medical is a primary care company across the upper Midwest in a number of locations. And those physicians practice primarily in assisted living facilities like mine, memory care buildings, and things like that. So that's our founding members. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about why we exist. So this information isn't gonna be a surprise to anybody, but I wanna show it to you to explain what's happening in this country and what's coming in terms of senior healthcare and the demand on healthcare services in the future. The blue line here is the trend line of the baby boomers. Everybody knows that. Those are the individuals born after the war from 1945 till about 1964. So a lot of growth in the number of births per year. There are about 74 million people born in the United States during this time. What most people don't know is that the birth rate collapsed during the next 15 years. So from about 1963 to just about 1980, the number of births in the country dropped significantly. So that's the Gen X generation. They're now 43 to 58 years old. So they're just going to start retiring in the next 4 or 5 years, where the baby boomers are largely retired, and the end of them, including me up here in 1962, are retiring over the next few years. Then we have the millennials, where birth rates increased again. The millennials really is what I call the echo boomers. It's the babies of the baby boomers, but still the number of people born in this time did not match what we saw with the baby boomers. Okay, what does that mean? So what it means is we've got a significant increase in the dependent population coming up. So it hasn't hit us yet. By the dependent population, I'm talking about 80-year-olds and higher and older, where most of our healthcare resources are spent. About 80% of our healthcare resources in this country are really spent on 20% of the population. So we've got just about 14 million people today, 80 and over. That's going to grow something like 40%, 41% by 2030, and then another 43% over the next 10 years. So we've got a significant increase in the demand of seniors that need healthcare. On the flip side, we look at the working age population. So this is the working age population per 80 plus age population in this country. Right now it's 15.5%. It's dropping to 11%. So we've got a significant drop in the number of workers in this country compared to our aging population. And this starts to show you why there's such a shortage in this country of healthcare workers, because there's just not as many people around working. It also explains why our unemployment rate is so low in this country. We simply have a lot of people retiring, and there aren't enough people replacing those individuals in the workplace. So how do we solve this problem? How do we control healthcare costs in the future and provide high quality care with less people? That's the reason CHIC exists. We're looking at technology and other forms of improvement. The cost of seniors, this is 65 and over. In 2020, 12% of our federal budget was spent on Medicare. Under current policies, it'll increase to 20% and more by 2050. Today, the average Medicare recipient costs Medicare $12,000 per year. That does not include prescription drugs, which can be significantly higher. But the average cost per year for Medicare recipients 80 and over is $30,000 per year or more. So when you look at these numbers, the 80 plus population today is costing this country about $420 billion a year. And by 2030, that will increase to close to $1 trillion a year just by our government spending on Medicare recipients 80 and over. So it's a significant tsunami, really what I call it, of costs coming up. And we need to find a way to manage that. So CHIC has defined 8 senior healthcare challenges that we're going to start working on. Just aging population and senior healthcare economics. How do we provide quality healthcare to our seniors? And how do we do it at a lower cost? And that involves number 2, the holistic approach to senior healthcare. Risk mitigation is really important. And really the management of age-related cognitive and chronic diseases within our population. How do we manage those effectively? Number 6 is important for us in the upper Midwest. We have a lot of rural areas and underrepresented communities that really don't have any staff and very few people to care for our seniors. And we're trying to find ways to do that remotely and those types of things. We have nutrition and food safety. Number 8 is probably the low-hanging fruit. Drug management, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, is an area where this country wastes significant amount of dollars on medications in this country. So our innovative solutions we're going to be looking for and we're going to be sending out some RFPs shortly to our members, is really focusing on remote biometric monitoring. So that's wearable device, devices that are worn as patches, or even subcutaneous devices that are put under the skin. Artificial intelligence, predictive and diagnostic devices. A lot of stuff is coming out in the marketplace. There's a lot of fragmentation out there. The systems aren't talking to each other. So there's a lot of work that could be done on biometric monitoring. Fall prediction and prevention is an important one for us. Our seniors fall every day. In fact, in facilities like mine, I've got 4,000 residents, and each resident on average in our facilities falls 4 times a year. Well, when they fall, they can break things, they can really have some major issues. So we want to make sure that we can reduce falls within the environment. Also, just a general decline, and really providing artificial intelligence to predict general decline in individuals and also intervention. Polypharmacy, as I mentioned, is the big one. We've done analysis in our company that really looks at the prescriptions given to our residents. My company manages 15 million prescriptions a year. Think of that, 15 million prescriptions a year. We have to manage the delivery of those, the storage of them, and dispensing those, and making sure our residents are taking their medications. But what we're finding is that in that big volume of medications that are out there, roughly 30% of the medications that are prescribed don't need to be prescribed, or they're simply wasted. 30%. We also look at as needed medications, the PRN medications, where physicians are prescribing medications for individuals as needed. We have found in some cases, and almost an average, that almost 80% of the PRNs that are ordered for residents and that are put into their rooms and stored are essentially thrown away. So we are wasting billions in this country. If we extrapolate it just from my facilities, we think that in this country we're wasting $300 billion a year in medications that are being destroyed. So that's a big innovative solution that I think we can all get behind. Dynamic telehealth solutions. There needs to be more work on telehealth to bring physicians to patients. Remote drug delivery systems in remote areas, but it will be very interesting. And of course, food prep, nutrition, smart refrigerators, things that help seniors maintain their nutrition. So that's why Chic exists. Again, we're brand new. We're going to be looking for members. We're going to be promoting Chic as a research and development company, and be working with the University of North Dakota and hopefully universities from all over the country. You can contact me, call me, email me if you're interested. Other than that, we'll see everybody in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phil. I appreciate that. And everyone on the call, don't forget that if you have any questions for our consortia representatives, please ask those in the question and answer box in your control panel. I'm going to go ahead and pass the tab over to our commercialization director for the Medical Technology Enterprise Consortium, Rick Satcher, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about what they do and how you can get involved.
All right, thank you very much. Can you see my presentation?
Not yet, but we know it likes
it says on-air showing application. We struggle with it. It takes a bit.
It takes,
yeah. Yeah, let me know if I press this and try again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is grief.
Yep, there we go. You're set.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Phil. You know, that's some pretty sobering numbers. I actually wasn't as aware of those figures as you delineate, so I'm happy to see that consortium come together. I know we're running a little short on time, so I'm going to run through these slides fairly quickly. I can tell you that a lot of them are slides or pictures from our annual report, which is on our website. You can find it at www.mtech-sc.org. I'm the Director of Commercialization for MTech. And MTech is another OTA consortium, you know, born for the same benefits that Mike described earlier. The Medical Research and Development Command had the concept of developing a prototype OTA in order to help develop products for the warfighters, with the idea that we'd be creating these technologies for dual markets, for civilian and for military. And that's really the focus of what we try to do for MTech and my commercialization program. So we are a prototype OTA, as I mentioned. You know, we like to see technologies at the TRL 3 level or above, where you see, you know, some proof of animal model work or like, you know, comparable in IT. We typically fund 4 to 5 and helping to really advance the commercialization readiness of our members. You can see if TRL is a new word for you, there's a definitions page on our website that's shown here on the bottom. For funding, since inception, we've had over $700 million in funding. It's come from an alphabet soup of military groups. And the, you know, I know when I first joined the consortium, I had to look these up and memorize them. We do have them listed on our website and on the annual report, but you can see here the Combat Casualty Care Group, CCRP, MIDRIP, and MOM. MOM is Military Operational Medicine, comprise the majority of the funding that we provide. And so far, in 2021, we provided $252 million. This is a list of the funding opportunities for 2021. We're well into 2022 and have a lot of new opportunities out now, but one of our most interesting has been the Military Prototype Advancement Initiative, where we've asked for solution briefs and for proposals in a wide variety of areas that are of military interest. And most of them are you know, focusing on far forward in the battlefield. We believe that medical technologies are lacking and we need to come up with better and new solutions. Since inception, we've awarded 170 projects. Over half of those are to small business members. And I think my next slide is our tech focus areas. Just briefly go over these. I'll show the membership in a sec. Our focus areas are in military, infectious diseases, combat casualty care. You can see a long list of our areas of interest, as well as some of the awardees. Again, you can go on our website and download the annual report and see these graphics. Military operational medicine is our other tech focus area, along with medicine and information sciences. So our membership, we have over 500 now, over 370 now is small businesses. Over half of the awards that we provide are to small businesses, so we're really proud of that. You know, this being an OTA and trying to help small businesses develop relationship with the government and work effectively with them, and that's the whole purpose of what we do, and we do it very well along with these other OTA consortiums that ATI manages. Solicitation process, just quickly, you know, one of the benefits of the OTA is to provide proposer conferences for our members. I've got my thing in my way, so I can't see my slide. And you know, this provides the membership the opportunity to talk to the military and to understand what the requirements are for different proposals. We also use this opportunity to team members together. A lot of times for these large proposals, one company in particular doesn't have all the skill sets needed to accomplish the military's requirements, and so we do a great job teaming our folks too. We also have a basket provision, which you know, we access frequently, and that's usually when the military receives a lot of proposals that they like but they can't fund. We put them in the basket and we keep them there for 2 years, and when funding becomes available, we're able to go back into that basket and look and see which ones we'd like to fund and move for project work. Oops, I'm getting a strange message. This window.
You okay?
Not sure what I did. Am I paused now and sharing?
No, we can still see. It says solicitation process. Are you trying to move the screen forward?
Yeah, commercialization program.
It seems like it might be pausing you for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It says move this window away from the shared application.
There you go. It seems to have unfrozen. So
Okay.
I think you can select your screen now and we're good to go. Go to webinar, giving us a run for our money.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not used to working with these as much, so. So now is it back showing it?
I can see it as well as the smaller windows on the left, but I am able to see the commercialization.
There we go.
Perfect.
Are
Now
we
you're
back to normal? Apologies for that. So I put together this commercialization program, and just quickly again, the goal is to educate our members. We do so via many different types of webinars focusing on business, technical, and regulatory strategies. I've developed an MCORE partner network. It's a bunch of service providers and experts in different areas in regulatory and technical and business strategy. And then we also have spotlights on labs and universities, and where our large industry partners have interests as well in collaborating. Do a bunch of mentoring with our small business partners as well. It's part of the job I really love, helping them hone their business strategy and strategic planning. And then network, we just had our membership meeting in Baltimore last week. Very successful, great way to talk to the military sponsors, understand where their needs are, what their requirements are, get some feedback on your technology, what you're planning to do, and how that can influence their decision for requirements funding. And then in terms of funding, we've developed some new programs, a commercialization program, commercialization grant program, rewarding $50,000 to small businesses to help with strategic planning efforts. We also have a prototype acceleration grant program in the amount of $250,000. And we're also developing angel and VC networks as we speak to help introduce our members to other potential funding interests, and then potentially establishing an impact fund that is still in the works, so a little early to talk too much about. But here's an example of our partner network. We're about 20 plus strong now in the areas that you see here. This has been very effective, very helpful for members. I've had a lot reach out asking me who can do what, and so this is why we put this together to help them. And here's our contacts. Jill is our COO, Kathy, Director of Program Ops, Lauren Palestrini, Director of Research. She runs the proposal conferences for the military, and myself as the Director of Commercialization. Joining is a pretty simple process. We just have a consortium member agreement. The cost for small businesses is $1,000. For large businesses, it's $5,000, prorated by the calendar year. So in the middle of the year here, if you're interested in joining, it's like $500. So with that, I think that's my last slide. So
Great, thank you so much, Rick. I will invite everyone to join us now on video because it is time for our Q&A. I'm very excited to say. So you've done a great job, audience, of submitting questions, and we've got about 10 minutes. We're going to get through as many of those as we can. So everyone at the ready. So one of them is establishing, is the U.S. being in the U.S. a pre-requirement for the challenge itself? I know for some consortium that is a requirement for membership, but is that a requirement for the challenge? And what kind of opportunities are there for European-based startups? So Jen, do you have a response to that? And also maybe
sure.
if everyone
So,
can say.
yeah, and certainly the consortia can hop in if I'm incorrect here. Certainly based on consortia requirements, it's either a US-based company, or I believe if it's a foreign entity, there must be a US presence that's actually submitting the technology. Now, I could be wrong on that, and the consortia can step in on that. Certainly, folks from outside the US can submit an innovation, and let's say they do not fit the pitch challenge criteria, they will certainly be considered for our Defense Innovation Challenge, which does not have a prize pool, but our Defense Tech Connect event is open to any applicant, whether they are US-based or not.
Yeah, Jen, this is Mike. I'll just step in real quick. For both MCDC and CWMD, there is a requirement that you're either a US entity or a US-based affiliate of a foreign entity. But that's just for membership to those two consortia.
Phil and Rick,
We're
are
open
you
to
this?
international on our
Same
side.
thing.
So
Okay. All right. So that hopefully gives you a sense of what your limitations may be if you're not a US established company. All right. So Prasanna asks, if our startup is based on 5 patents with products based on 1 or more combination of patents, for example, can we submit 3 separate applications for 3 different products that we plan to launch?
Yes, you can.
Great. Jonathan asks, what kind of companies are qualified for the program? So I think we might be thinking about TRL level, stage of development is what I imagine you're asking, Jonathan, but clarify if I'm wrong. So what about stage of development? Are there any
So
limitations?
stage of development, I mean, certainly we accept all submissions from concept to commercial product. I would recommend certainly a TRL of 4 or higher is ideal, particularly when you're working with potential DoD or military or government partners. But certainly we are, certainly TRL agnostic. We certainly encourage you to submit, and these will all go under the review process, of course. But certainly if it's a TRL 4 or higher, I suspect that will be of just potentially stronger interest to our committee.
Great. Excellent. We're just getting through these. Cephas asks, are medical devices used in hospitals also of interest and accepted? So I think that question about the level of engagement with DoD and the warfighter versus civilian communities, can we speak to that?
yeah, I'm happy to say something. Jen? Sure. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mentioned in our presentation, the military often can't support you alone for your product. So we heavily emphasize dual market focus. It does present challenges, right? Because the military is going to have different requirements for ruggedness than would typically, be needed in a hospital, right? You're not going to be throwing that thing around and it's going to be subjected to sandstorms and things like that. So, but we work with our member companies to help develop, and understand the military requirements and help keep the focus on the civilian application, civilian markets.
Great. Okay. We have a question here. What are some important differences between the MCDC and MTech consortia? Are y'all able to distill that in a quick way?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think our focus, as I mentioned, you saw our focus is really medical products far forward in the battlefield. Trauma care, shock and TBI. I think those are things that Mike is not really focusing on. He's focusing on some more heavy hitting issues, right?
Yeah, Rick, I think you summed it up. Certainly you guys have infectious disease as part of your scope, but we are solely looking at chemical and biological rad and nuke threats to the warfighter. So anything that associates those with the warfighter's health is what we're doing. We're not touching restoration or TBI or things like that.
Right. Another question, do consortia specifically, any of you consortia, specifically focus on emotional trauma, PTSD, or anxiety?
We definitely do, absolutely. It's part of military health and human performance. And we funded projects for PTSD, both therapeutic and preventative. And I can invite you to go onto the MTech website. We have a list of our projects funded, and you can see examples of those. But also happy to speak with you separately too about your technology.
Great. Anyone else have a specific focus on that? No? Okay, that's fine. All right. So if you were to, as we kind of wrap this up, if you were to sort of, I guess, give one parting piece of wisdom to our applicants, is there something that would really make someone stand out either in a pitch presentation to you as a judge or in an application? Is there something, some overarching piece of advice that you would give?
So for me, it's been, you know, in my world, and I've been trying to coach a lot of our member companies on this. You know, you have to look at both the military and civilian application. You have to look at both customers, and you do voice of customer research, right? So you're doing that on the civilian side. You have to do it on the military side too. You got to understand there are differences, similarities, but we want to see, especially for funding, that you have taken a proactive stance and looked into those applications. We're also here to help you with that because we know it's hard. It's difficult to talk to the government and the military. The OTA process really helps simplify that and enable it. But yeah, that's my one piece of advice.
Great.
Rick, I'll follow up on that. I think that's great advice, and I share I share that sentiment. You have to look at what your technology addresses. As a fellow scientist, it's really easy to get caught up in the passion of what you've developed, and that is tremendously important. But when you're looking for somebody to fund it or buy it, whatever the case may be, is it meeting their application? So, you know, tie your innovation to what problem it's solving, and ideally what of their problems it's solving, and make your focus there. They'll ask you the technical questions, but if you just lead with technology and don't make the dot connection for them, then that may be a harder path to follow.
One quick last comment. I always tell people this on presentations, on your pitch deck. Tell a story.
Yes.
We're storytellers. Tell a story. Tell us how your technology is being used, or you plan to use it, and what impact it's had on a patient. Period.
Yeah. Good advice.
That goes a long way.
Since Sheik is late to the game, you know, but I would say that for me, especially on our side, in the future when we start looking at presentations, it's that as well. It's personalizing things. All of us have parents. Most of us have parents that are still alive, and we have all been dealing with a lot of these issues when it comes to the things that we're looking at. I just spent the last few days with my mom putting a new wearable device on her arm. She's 90 years old, and I'm watching her movement in her house and things like that. So the personalization, I think, is really important when it comes to senior healthcare.
Great advice. Jen, would you like to close us out with your parting advice for the applicants?
Sure, yes, I think certainly for the applicants, and I think this question has been raised before, certainly you're welcome to submit multiple technologies. I always say try and use your own self-filter and submit ones which you think best align with any of our consortia partners. And I think also to keep it real, sometimes you get submissions where people will say, it's a $1 trillion industry. You don't need to go overboard. I think you should be pretty realistic. And these types of challenges are great experiences for you. From submitting an application, and if you are accepted to be a finalist, this is really community driven and driven for the warfighter, national security, for those that are aging. So this is really from, you know, base to battlefield and even post care. So certainly think of all those items as you think about submitting innovations, and we certainly cannot wait to see them all. And, you know, this is a really great opportunity for anyone to submit and be a part of this Tech Connect and ATI community.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. We are right at time. I appreciate you joining and sharing your expertise. I hope everyone on the call feels a little bit more empowered to submit a strong application. And please know that we're here to answer questions for you. We're all available to you. You can start by emailing me and I'll direct you, and that's laura@techconnect.org. And we encourage you to get your application in early and start engaging soon. We're excited to meet you. So have a great afternoon, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.